Hey guys, I realized I messed up on my order. I normally have 2 days of review before like a regular in-class test, but since I was planning on trying to give you guys the take-home test, I am only going to give you 1 day of review materials, which was yesterday. So these are just optional practice problems in case you want some optional extra practice. You are once again not required to do any of these. These are just extra practice. So today is Friday, if you're doing this on the schedule correctly. And today your only assignment for in class and for homework is to work on your take-home test. These are just extra practice problems if you want. And I also have a math meme of the day. So my Algebra 2 kids enjoy the fancy poo versus regular poo meme when we looked at some notation. So I thought you guys might kind of find it funny. So regular poo is octagon, all the way to like super fancy poo calls it a truncated quadrilateral. So we're going to just do some quick practice. For these problems, I believe you guys have these in your packets. We're going to do area is base times height. So it looks like it's 5 by 2. So it'll be 10. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Height is 1, 2, 3. So area is base times height of your parallelogram, remember? So 6 times 3 will be 18. All of these are like units squared, units squared. This next two really are a little bit more sideways, but if you call this your base, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, base times height. And if you call this your height, because it would make a right angle to your base, you can count it more easily. So it looks like it's 4 times 4, so 16 units squared. This next one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, so area equals 5 units squared. Okay, these are just some quick practice. Triangle you probably feel pretty straightforward right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my base. My height is 1, 2, 3. So area, base times height divided by 2. 5 times 3 divided by 2. 15 cut in half is 7.5 units squared. Let's see, we've got diagonal 1, diagonal 2. So for a kite, your area is you do diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, cut in 2. Remember, if you don't remember why that formula is, just a quick recap. So here's like a quick kite. And if I draw in a box where I like hit every single point on my kite, if you were to find the area of this box, you would do like a rectangle, your base times your height. And that would be like the whole big box. Now we don't want that whole big box, right? We only want half of it. Because notice if I was to kind of draw in my diagonals, I only want this part, like this one, this one, this one, these 4 triangles. Now notice we don't want these 4. So because there is a duplicate of each of them, we're going to take base times height and divide it by 2. And the reason why instead of base times height we use the diagonals is notice like your base is the same as the shorter diagonal here, and your height is the same as that longer diagonal going straight up and down. It's the same side length. So that's why it's diagonal 1 times diagonal 2 cut in half. My diagonals are 1, 2, 3, 4 it looks like, by 1, 2, 5, 6. So it looks like we've got 24 over 2, which is 12 units squared. Okay, I'm going to pause the video, do the work for these 3, and put your answer key, because these should be pretty straightforward at this point. Okay, there are your answers for those practice problems. The harder one I would say is H. It's your trapezoid, and it's kind of turned sideways, but if you look at the sides labeled with the green and the yellow, those are what I would call your bases, because they are parallel to each other, 2 lines that if you extend them will never touch. And then the height is the blue side, so our height is 6, And when you plug it in, base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2, it comes out to be 180 units squared. Okay, and then the last couple problems I have, I think I only have like 4 quick problems. This is just if you want extra practice. Once again, totally not required. It's just if you want it, it is here for you. So this first one, find the area of the shaded region if AB is 12. The circles are congruent and the circles are tangent to each other. All that means is the circles are touching at one point. It's saying that there's not any space in between them is all that's saying. Okay, so I know that this is 12, which means from here all the way across should be 12. Well, then that means that for one circle, my diameter would be 6, which means half of 6, I'll maybe make this a different color, maybe I'll make it red. My radius would then be 3. Okay, so let's try and first find like the area of my rectangle. I know it's base times height, which I know so far I've got 12 times. Now here's the tricky thing, if I want this side length, notice that's the same if I drew it here as the diameter of these circles. Both of these circles are the same. We said that the diameter is 6, and we said the radius was 3. So then that means that this side length is 6. So we can label 12 and 6. Okay, so it looks like it's 72 units squared for the area of the rectangle. Now we need to find the circles, right? Our overall plan, if we had to make up a plan, would be like rectangle minus circle to get the shaded region. So let's first get one of my circles. My area is pi times radius squared. Both of them are exactly the same, so it's going to be pi times radius of 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times pi, I'm going to write that as 9 pi, just like you would write it as not x9, but 9x, right? The number in front of the symbol. And then since there's 2 of them, 9 pi times 2, we're going to have 18 pi's, units squared. To get my shaded region, it's going to be 72. Take away 18 pi. That's the exact answer if you want to write it as that. If you would like a decimal answer, you can do 72 minus 18 times pi. And it looks like it's about 15.45 units squared. Now, once again, that would be a little different from if I did minus 18 times 3.14. Because when I'm pressing the pi button is doing all of the digits of pi that my calculator can hold rather than just the first 3. So that's why it will be a little off if you just use the 3.14. Here's another good shaded area problem. The trapezoid below is divided into 2 triangles and 1 rectangle. Lengths are given in centimeters. What is the combined area in square centimeters of the 2 shaded triangles? So for this problem, let's see. Trapezoid is divided into 2 triangles, 1 rectangle. Lengths are given in centimeters. And we want just the 2 triangles. So let's see. My area of my triangle, I need base times height divided by 2. So let's see if we have any of that information. Let's see. We have the heights of the triangles. We're just missing the bases. So let's see. We know if this part here is 4, that means that this part here has to be 4. Okay. Now, what's kind of tricky is there's not really a good way to get what's left over, right? We know that what's left over, that these 2 green parts have to add up to, if the total is 8, 4, but we don't know how they've been split up. Now, if we had an angle, we could try and use some trig ideas to solve for missing sides, but there's actually kind of a shortcut if you think creatively. So rather than finding the area of the triangles, another workaround we could do is we could do our trapezoid, take away our rectangle, and get what's left, because we don't really have enough information to find the area of the triangles. So the area of my trapezoid, that would be my base 1 plus base 2 times height cut in 2. My 2 bases are 8 and 4, the 2 sides that are parallel to each other. Okay, here's the one, there's the other one. My height is 3 divided by 2, so 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 times 3 is 36, divided by 2, that's going to be 18 units squared. Then if I did that little rectangle in the middle, it's going to be 4 by 3. So area is base times height, which is going to give us 12. If we then subtract, right, 18, read that funny, 18 minus 12, it's going to give us 6 units squared. Oh, and it looks like lengths are given in centimeters. So we could actually say 6 centimeters squared. I'll make that 18 centimeters squared. I'll make the 12 centimeters squared as well. Okay, so these are just some good shaded area problems. This last one's a pretty interesting one. This last one, if we think about our game plan, we are going to do the big one minus the medium one minus the small one, right, of the circle areas. So let's see what we can figure out. If the medium circle's radius is 3, that means that all the way across is going to be 3 and 3, right, which is going to be 6. If the little circle's radius is 2, that means all the way across is going to be 4. So that means that the big circle all the way across is going to be 10, which means the big circle's radius would be 5. And this is going to be a really cool problem, I think, because if I did my area, which is pi r squared, the big one's going to be pi times 5 squared. The medium's going to be pi times, I'll put it in the same color. We had pi times 3 squared. Oops. Trying to make that the right color. Pi times 3 squared. And the small one is going to be minus pi times 2 squared. So it's kind of cool how it ends up being. It's 25 pi, take away 9 pi, take away 4 pi, which is the same thing as 25 pi minus 13 pi, which will give us 12 pi units squared. And notice it's a little easier to leave your answer in terms of pi. If they're all pi's, think about them as like, 25 apples minus 9 apples minus 4 apples. You keep your units. We have one more problem. So here's the last optional review problem. We have a regular octagon with side length of 10. Okay, and we want the length of its apothem. Just a quick reminder what an apothem is. If I draw in my triangles, right, to the center of my shape, the apothem is if I look at one triangle, it's the height to the side length, right? So it looks like they told us what the area of the whole octagon is. So that means if I want to find the area of one of my slices, there are 8 total triangles, so I could do 482.8 divided by 8. So I'll do that over here. 482.8 divided by 8, which is 60.35 units squared. Okay, so that's area of one of my triangles. Okay, so now I know my area of my triangle, right? I know the base, and I'm looking for the height. So I know that 10 times height divided by 2 has to equal 60.35. And now I just need to go backwards and solve for h. So if I do times 2, right, 10 times h would be times 2, 120.7 divided by 10, divided by 10. So it looks like my height is 12.07. And it's just a regular height, so it's just units, no units squared unless I have area. So that is how to solve for the height. You might have done it in a different way. There's, other ways you might be able to kind of think through this problem. But I would say that's probably the easiest way to solve for your height. Okay, so that is the end of some extra optional practice to get ready for the end of the unit. Remember, this is optional. The only thing you have to do for Friday to turn in for Monday is your take-home assessment. Okay, bye guys.